Next up I have Piper and Poussey. There's a lot I could say about both of them. Neither one of them should be in prison. Piper, who knows if there was still, like I said, Alex was still doing what she was doing. Maybe Piper would get, caught up in Alex's manipulations and still do what she did. But the way it went down, like, drugs would be legal here. So the only way I could see Piper going to prison, it would be a pretty draconian socialist government. And I have to say, I have to, be honest and be fair-minded. A socialist government is not 100% guaranteed to be a good government. You can have a bad socialist government. You could also have a great socialist government. But I think most likely a socialist government would be good. But let's just say under like a bad socialist government, you could have a policy where it's something like, there are other countries that are, capitalists and they keep drugs illegal because of what I was talking about. And they could do something where they're like, well, she was doing trade with these other countries, so it's basically like an economic crime that we're going to imprison her for because, we have sanctions and you can't do business with other countries. Now, I wouldn't be in favor of that. That would be bullshit, but it could happen, potentially. I don't think it would, though. So most likely, Piper would have done what she did, and she wouldn't be in prison. And Poussey, I mean, we don't know why she's in prison, but I'm going to make the assumption that it's for selling weed, because that's what's been suggested on the show. Although I know you guys, you do a great job with, like, sometimes you totally fool us with, like, Morello, right? You thought she was an erotomaniac, or, no. You thought it was for the mail order fraud, but it turns out she's an erotomaniac. Like, who saw that shit coming, right? Like, I definitely didn't. It was great. So, who knows what'll happen with Poussey, but she shouldn't be in prison. Now, here's why I'm putting the two of them together. It's because I think both of them would make great counselors, great social workers in the prison. And this is my thought on it. I think that, well, let me just pose this as a question, really, for the real Piper, actually, if she watches this. Would you be willing to live as a prisoner for a defined period of time, like 6 months or a year, if you were paid a salary to do it? Like, let's just say there's socialism. You don't have to do it for your survival needs. You don't need the money, but you would get paid to do it on top of what you're already getting to survive, like free housing and healthcare and all those things I mentioned earlier. Because here's why I think of this as a good idea. I think for other prisoners, they're not going to see you as an equal, and they won't have as much respect for you as a counselor unless they see you living under the same conditions as them and not getting any special treatment, which is very important. Like, if you can just come and go as you please, like Healy, he comes in 9 to 5 or whatever his hours are, he can leave. Like, he's free to go. They're not going to see him as the same, as living under the same circumstances. So I think if you could actually have people like Poussey and Piper, who both are like great leaders. I mean, Poussey is amazing. Like, I don't want to shortchange her at all because I'm tying her in with Piper. Like, she's the leader of the Black Girls as far as I'm concerned, and I think that'll happen in the 3rd season. Based on what we saw in the 2nd, like, she stood up to be, she didn't get caught into peer pressure or anything. Like, she was always like the strongest one, the toughest one mentally, and you could see that, like, she's a really good role model for Watson. So, yeah, I think it would be interesting, to see if they'd be willing to be counselors like that, because in reality, if they're not in prison, those two are both very smart women. They'd have a lot of opportunities to do things in society, but would they ever even find out that they would make good counselors, right? Like, how would they even know that? I mean, that's interesting, but I'm just posing it hypothetically.